Things are a bit different now, but back in the day, most major console titles were released alongside one or more portable versions. These games were usually outsourced to smaller developers, and due to the limitations of weaker hardware, it was easy to view them as lazy cash grabs. Which, to be fair, most of them were. The Turok series is certainly no stranger to this phenomenon. Seriously, there's a portable alternative to every mainline game. Even Rage Wars got a little love. But yeah, this is a lot to digest. So for today, let's start at the beginning with Turok: Battle of the Bionosaurs. At a glance, it's the most interesting of the bunch. The others all use the same artwork and titles as the main series, whereas this one almost seems like its own thing. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but after playing through the entire portable library, I was shocked to learn that the opposite is true. Turok: Battle of the Bionosaurs follows Tal Set, aka Turok, aka the Son of Stone, as he travels through the Lost Lands on a quest to defeat the evil campaigner. By collecting keys, you'll open portals to 8 different worlds, and along the way you'll gather pieces of the Chronoscepter, the game's ultimate weapon. Sound familiar? The big difference is that Turok on the Nintendo 64 is a first-person shooter, and here it's a 2D side-scroller. I don't know if an absolutely faithful adaptation was the right call, but you have to respect the ambition, and the developers at Bit Managers certainly tried. If you're anything like me, you'll probably go into Battle of the Bionosaurs primed for some Contra-like run-and-gun action, and that's just not gonna work. If you want to get anywhere in this game, patience is the key. The controls are best described as stiff but responsive. Turok can run, crouch, jump, swim, and like the Prince of Persia before him, he can slowly clamber up ledges. Since everything takes so long, success is more about making the right decision than it is about reflexes. And this same logic largely applies to the gunplay as well. Most of the series' trademark weapons are here. You'll start with just a knife and a bow, but as you travel through the levels, you'll acquire new firearms at a steady pace. There's a pistol, 2 kinds of shotguns, an assault rifle, a grenade launcher, and later on, things get bigger and more sci-fi. Unfortunately, a few too many weapons feel functionally interchangeable. If there are any differences between them, they're not immediately apparent. Anyway, consider these nitpicks. As I was saying, the real issue is with how Turok handles the weapons. With the exception of the knife, you can't crouch and fire. So if you encounter an enemy that's low to the ground, like a leaper for example, you're left with only 2 options. You either wait until it's right on top of you and shoot diagonal and down, or you scroll through the weapon wheel, switch to the knife, stab the bad guy, and then scroll back to the gun you actually want to use. I found myself abusing enemy behavior to circumvent this issue. Since they'll only chase you so far, I would just back off and change weapons, almost like a turn-based RPG. So I guess it's nice that there's a solution, even if it totally destroys any sense of momentum. There also seems to be a lot of inconsistency with whether you can jump and shoot, seemingly varying from weapon to weapon. I think the game would prefer me to stand back and aim diagonally from a suitable vantage, but enemies are often placed in the most inconvenient spots. That's really the underlying issue here. The enemies are dumb. They either charge at you or stand and shoot from a stationary position. They shouldn't be very hard to deal with. but they always seem to appear in places where you're powerless to stop them. All too often, you'll be called upon to make a difficult jump, and as you climb up, you'll be forced to take unavoidable damage from a nearby sniper. Or worse, you need to climb a ladder, but you're locked in a slow animation, struggling and probably failing to dodge incoming projectiles. This is a level design issue, and it goes deeper than annoying enemy placement. For starters, just like in the console version, you'll be spending most of your time looking for keys. There's 3 per level and they're all mandatory. Some are reasonably easy to find, but many are hidden in far less obvious places. In level 2, you'll find 1 key by dropping from this exact ledge. How do you know you won't just fall to your death? There is a point earlier on where you're running on the ground and you can see the very edge of some unreachable logs, but I think it's asking a lot to expect a player to remember such a small detail. To reach this spot, you'll need to travel through numerous caves and portals, and by then you'll probably lose all sense of geography. And honestly, I might be giving the game too much credit. Because as bad as this hint is, it's actually the outlier. Most of the time, the game doesn't even give you this much. All you can do is take a leap of faith. But wait, you jumped a little too far. Too bad. Oh, and just to add an extra pinch of salt to the wound, Turok can take fall damage. Sometimes dropping off a ledge is fine. Other times, not so much. So how far is too far? Beats me. It seems totally inconsistent. I get that the developers don't want you breaking the intended level progression, but there are more organic ways to rein players in. A bed of spikes, for instance, would actually be appreciated. And how often can you say that? But whatever, it's only a band-aid fix, and I'm still not done complaining. As the game progresses, you'll run into an increasing number of unfair jumps. One mistake will kill you, either from fall damage or bottomless pits. And to actually clear the gap, you'll need to push Turok to his absolute limit. Look at this, I'm off the ledge, and I still can't make it. I need to tap the D-pad and move as far as I possibly can. This is pixel perfect platforming, and it doesn't need to be this way. Still want more? Check out this bullshit. There are certain rooms you enter where enemies will immediately rush you. Even if you know it's coming, there isn't time to jump. Your only option is to equip a powerful gun and mash the fire button whenever you go through a door. It's a waste of ammo, but it's the safest bet. About the only saving grace here is the fact that as long as you don't die, defeated enemies won't respawn. This gives you a bit more breathing room to explore levels for secrets, and when wandering around the more maze-like environments, finding living enemies is a good indication you're going the right way. Needless to say, you want to avoid dying. It's inconvenient in any game, but especially so in Battle of the Bionosaurs. Passwords are few and far between, and really nobody wants to waste their time with this crap anyway. So grab those life force tokens for extra lives, and if you're running short, don't be afraid to go back to earlier levels and start farming. You'll need them for all the bullshit death traps and leaps of faith, and also to take on the game's bosses. Over the course of your adventure, you'll face off against the Long Hunter, Mantis, Tyrannosaurus, and of course, the Campaigner. These guys will look familiar to anyone who's played the N64 game, except now they've been vacuum sealed for easy storage. Oh well, at least the Tyrannosaurus is still suitably imposing. Appearances aside, most of these fights aren't much fun. Since Turok isn't nimble enough to maneuver around their attacks, you'll probably just end up exchanging blows and hoping to come out on top. Graphically, the game is about as good as you'd expect. The characters are simple but easy to distinguish. Turok himself is well realized and gains a lot of personality through his animations. And many of the enemies from the console version are well represented. The raptors look a bit basic, but the robots and aliens are instantly recognizable. In terms of environments, you'll be traveling through a lot of jungles and caves, but later levels such as the catacombs, the treetop village, and the campaigner's industrial fortress introduce a fair amount of variety. Sound design, on the whole, is solid, with bonus points for above average music. Just remember it's a Game Boy game and set your expectations accordingly. Overall, I'm a bit mixed on Battle of the Bionosaurs. I think it's close to being an enjoyable game, but unless you're willing to abuse save states, you'll probably rage quit before you get too far. It's a game that demands a lot of trial and error to overcome, which would be okay if the punishment for failure wasn't quite so harsh. Maybe once upon a time I could have recommended Battle the Bionosaurs as a suitable Turok experience for when you're on the go. But with the Nintendo 64 trilogy now available on the Switch in HD, I struggle to think of a situation where I'd rather play this. For hardcore Turok fans, it might be interesting to see how first-person mechanics have been translated to 2 dimensions, but for everyone else, I'd say you can probably just skip this one.